Hello everybody, welcome to the Faculty of Arts, University of Melbourne, Meet Melbourne Live webinar. I'm joined here today by some wonderful students, some current students and some alumni, and we'll be going through Bachelor of Arts at the University of Melbourne and what it's like to study here. So I have with me here today, I've got Quinn, I've got Kelly, I've got Daniel, and I've got Imogen. Thank you all for being here. So before we go any further, I just wanted to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land in which the Parkville campus and our South Bank campuses are situated, the Wurundjeri and the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, and pay respects to their elders past, present and emerging. So I'll just quickly start, for anybody that doesn't really know that much about Bachelor of Arts, why would you study the Bachelor of Arts, particularly at the University of Melbourne? And as you'll hear from our panel tonight, the Bachelor of Arts it's a flexible degree that equips you with a transferable set of skills that are applicable to a variety of industries, but really importantly, it teaches you to be agile, to think creatively, think critically, and work across a range of cultures, languages, and with people with a variety of different skill sets. And in 2020, it was announced by the World Economic Forum that these skills, these creative and critical thinking skills, are some of the most sought after skills in the workplace today. Just a few quick things, I won't go through all of them. Just wanted to note sort of the ranking of the University of Melbourne, because it is something that's quite important and worth mentioning. We are the #1 university in Australia, 32nd in the world, and importantly, we are #1 in Australia for employer reputation. And 93% of our graduates have been employed within 4 months of graduation, which is excellent. All right, so before we jump into these majors and minors, I just wanted to go to our panel and ask them why they chose to study the Bachelor of Arts. I might start with you, Kelly.
Yeah, I chose to do a Bachelor of Arts because I felt like I had a lot of interest and I didn't really know which one I wanted to explore in tertiary education. So having the wide range of majors really helped me out.
Great. And what about you, Imogen?
I was really drawn to the flexibility that you get in an arts degree at Melbourne through the breadth subjects. So I knew I wanted to study arts, but I also had a great passion for music, and I knew I could pursue that through my breadth.
Great, wonderful. And I'll go to Daniel.
Yeah, so the reason I picked arts was because I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do after high school, but I found that the subjects I enjoyed most in like year 12 ended up being the ones I found most interest in the Bachelor of Arts when I looked at the prospectus and went to the open days. And then when I found out about the flexibility, I thought, this is definitely for me. So yeah, that's why I picked that.
And what about you, Quinn? Tell us about how you ended up in the Bachelor of Arts.
So I'm an international student from Vietnam, and I was really drawn to, Australia because it's a great country, Melbourne's a great city. And then of course I had to look at the ranking, and I was interested in pursuing psychology. And I did notice that University of Melbourne has got wonderful ranking for psychology, so I entered.
Great. And so because we'll go into this a little bit later, but I know you can do psychology through arts or through science. Was there a reason that you chose to do it through arts?
I guess it's because I could pursue a double major in arts. So I'm currently planning to do a double major in philosophy as well as psychology. And I don't think that's possible through the Bachelor of Science.
Yes, you wouldn't have been able to do that, follow that psychology passion. So that sounds very interesting. So what I will just do now is I'm just going to spend a little bit of time sort of going through this course structure with everybody and just highlighting those majors and minors that are available, and just explaining that flexibility that you do have in the degree. So as you can see, we offer over 40 areas of study in the Bachelor of Arts, most of them through a major and some of those through a minor. So that's everything from archaeology, ancient world studies to anthropology, a variety of languages, everything from Arabic to German to Japanese to Korean, and many more. Criminology, economics, history, philosophy, politics, media and communications, psychology, and of course the list goes on. All of those are available if anybody wants to have a deeper dive on our website, which is study.unimel.edu.au. So when you do come and study at the University of Melbourne, you start off with quite a flexible program, but one of the things you will have to decide straight away is what foundation subject you will be doing. You can see there's those on the screen there. I might just ask Daniel, what foundation subject did you do?
The foundation subject I did was power. I picked that one.
And why did you pick that? Do you remember?
From memory, I remember I just thought it was the most interesting of the six, but particularly because I was interested in doing a politics major from the start. I had heard from other older students, like older university students, that doing power would be a good kind of segue into that. So I thought power would be a good way to go into it.
Wonderful, cool. Okay, so I just wanted to note as well, anybody that's watching, if you do have any questions, please go ahead and post them in the chat, and we'll be able to answer some of those live, and also our team will be able to answer some of those for you as well in the chat function. Okay, so just jumping back into foundation subjects. So these subjects, and you just heard from Daniel there about power, these subjects give a broad overview of one of a few key themes within humanities and social sciences. So for example, if you did the identity foundation subject, you'd be looking at those questions about how do we construct ideas around who we are? What does it mean to be who you are? And sort of those deep questions about what does it mean to be human? And so the idea with any of these foundation subjects is they're applicable to any major that you might go on to do, any area of interest that you might follow, but they give you a cornerstone of understanding, of theoretical understanding that you can take with you into the rest of your degree. Another thing that is worth noting and is quite unique about the University of Melbourne is that we offer breadth subjects. We've already heard from some of our panellists tonight about the breadth subjects that they did, but I'll just explain it a little bit. So breadth subjects are study from a different area outside of your core discipline. So what does that mean? That means study outside of the Faculty of Arts, study not really in humanities or social sciences. So as we've heard from Imogen, she had that interest in music, and so that's something that she could pursue through her breadth subjects. Imogen, what did you do as far as music subjects?
My first breadth subject I chose was a choir subject. So I was actually really happy to have a practical element in my degree. So particularly taking content-heavy classes like psychology, I was able to pair it with something that I can just enjoy singing with other people.
Wonderful. Yeah, it's something I wish I'd done a bit more in my study. So that would be one option, to do something like music. But a lot of students will also choose to maybe if you're one of those students that is not just a sort of arts person, but you also have that science mind as well. You could take some subjects in something like engineering or chemistry, or I think, Daniel, you might have done a subject on climate change, I think. Is that right?
Yes, it is. So I did Introduction to Climate Change as my breadth for semester 2 in my first year, and that kind of focused on both the political, economic and scientific aspects of climate change at a beginner level. And that was really interesting because coming from even just doing the first semester or two of arts, it was great to have something a bit different that wasn't just always the humanities side of things. So I really enjoyed that.
Oh, wonderful. And I guess that's a really key thing, is that it's understanding that world from that different perspective, and of course meeting people from other parts of the uni as well. I'm sure I know in my studies it's always, sometimes you get a bit siloed into your one degree, but I guess those breadth subjects are a great chance to sort of branch out a bit, which is something definitely worth keeping in mind. So I'll just jump along to what a major is, because before I started university, I had no idea what a major was. So I think it's worth just going through. So a major is a area of study that you will do throughout your degree. So as you can see here in this sample course plan, those blue subjects are the major subjects. So that could be anything from media communications to psychology to history. And what you'll do is you'll study some subjects from that area all the way through your degree. So you can see they're level 1, which is first year, then level 2, and then level 3. And so in this sample course plan, somebody's decided that they're just going to do one major. So what's that's meant is that they've got lots of room for what we call arts electives. And they're the subjects there in the red. And those subjects are any subject from within the Bachelor of Arts. So any humanities and social science subjects. You might decide to try history, and then try some philosophy, then try some anthropology, and really get a really broad understanding of humanities and social sciences, still having that core interest in that major. And then, of course, you've got your breadth subjects there. You can see those in the pink as well. And you'll be able to do those through your degree as well. And you can see just at the end there is an option. If you do want to take a few more arts electives, you can, instead of doing those final breadth subjects, you can do some arts electives as well. So the key message there is it is quite flexible. So here's just an example here. I've got a little glitch on the screen there, but that's okay. Of a double major in, I'll just jump to the next slide there. Looks like we're having some technical difficulties. I'm just going to show what a double major is here, or two majors. So you can see here we have two majors. We've got in the dark blue there, that is a major in politics. You can see they're doing that through their entire degree. And then unlike that previous slide of the single major, you can see in this double major, there's not as much room for those elective subjects in red. You can see instead they've been replaced by some light blue subjects. And then that's the second major there. So you can see in this example, we've got history and politics and international studies. Now, this is your study plan from Bachelor of Arts, Daniel, as it would happen. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Do you want to talk through what you did and sort of how you went about choosing the majors?
Yeah, for sure. So like I said at the start, I chose power as my foundation subject. And then in my first semester, I did Australian politics, medieval history, and then principles of business law as my breadth. One of the things for me was I really wasn't sure what majors besides politics that I wanted to do. I'd done a lot of history in high school, but I thought, oh, it might be good to change it up. So originally the plan was to do politics and sociology. But then I realized that sociology wasn't for me. So I ended up being able to transfer a lot of my sociology subjects to my politics ones because they crossed over, and then was able to do history as well, which is great. And my main focus, as you can probably tell, is a lot of 20th century history, and then a lot of modern politics as well.
Wonderful. And so it sounds like you did sort of have a bit of a play around in your first year. And when was it that you decided that on that second major, so that history major?
I decided on the second major at the end of semester 1 of year 2 of my second year of arts. So at that point, I had kind of not locked myself in necessarily, but had set myself up to do politics and sociology. And then that's when I realized after that semester, maybe not. I prefer maybe to do some history because I really, really enjoyed those subjects. And that's when I, went to like stop 1 or the equivalent back then, which was different, and then was able to kind of trying to change around my my course plan so that I could do history as my major as well as my second.
Wonderful. Awesome. And so just for anybody watching at home, Stop 1 is our student centre that we have at the university. They're available sort of online or over the phone, and we also have an in-person drop-in centre. And there's support there to help students sort of like Daniel with their course plan, and once they've got a bit of an idea of the majors they'd like to do, how to plot that into their study plan so that they make sure they take all the right subjects going forward. And they're also there to help with a variety of other sort of administrative or study plan options there. I might just now throw to Imogen. Can you talk to me a bit how you chose your majors?
Well, I initially started out with the idea that I was going to do psychology as a major. And so I went into arts prepared for all of my psychology subjects. And once I got there, I had done legal studies during Year 12 VCE. During the process of doing 1-2, I decided it wasn't exactly what I was after. So I left it at 3-4, did something else, came into university ready just to focus on psychology. I had, as Lyle mentioned before, an arts elective subject to fill, and so I took a criminology subject because I decided that would be something I was interested in and a good way to fill the space. What ended up happening throughout the semester is I actually really enjoyed my experience with criminology and I loved the subject. So when it got to choosing my subjects for this year, for second year, I decided to put it down as a major. So now I am pursuing a psychology and criminology major, and that was really because the arts elective that I chose was the only prerequisite in order to do it as a second year major. So I guess that was a really eye-opening experience for me as how small little things like your breadth subjects or your arts electives can really lead to a deep passion.
Yeah, great. And one thing we haven't touched on is minors. And so we've looked at some 2 majors here, but we haven't talked about minors. And so a minor is basically half a major. So it's still a specialisation, but instead of doing that full 6 or 8 subject sequence, you just do 4 subjects in that area. So you are still specialising in that area, but not as deeply as in a major. So there are sort of 3 options there, either a single major, 2 majors, or a major and a minor. As long as you are doing 1 major, that's all that's required from a bachelor degree. Just before we jump on, I just wanted to jump back to Daniel and just look a little bit deeper at those breadth subjects that you did, Daniel. And could you talk through those a little bit? I can see there's quite some singing subjects as well.
Yeah, for sure. So like I said, in semester 1 of the first year, I thought, as most art students do, law is on the cards, so why not do principles of business law? And it was definitely a wake-up call in terms of getting to work. And I thought to myself, it'd be really nice to maybe do some subjects that are really outside the scope of what you might want to do in arts or even what I want to do after arts. And I'd done a lot of like choirs and stuff like that during high school. I loved like musicals and all that sort of thing. So I thought, why not do like glee singing, singing rock musical, something fun that I really enjoy. And the best time I probably had in the degree, just being able to kind of think differently and focus on a skill area entirely different to what you have to do during arts or law, which is what I ended up doing, what I'm in now. And that was really a lot of fun, to be honest. I really enjoyed it, and you make great friends and you gain new skills as well.
Great, wonderful. Okay, so just reiterating just what that minor structure would look like, just so everybody at home can see. So you can see there's those major subjects going all the way through. You can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 subjects in the major. And that minor subject is a shorter sequence there. You can see they've just done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 there. Great, so we'll just move on. Another option that I know quite a few people tonight watching at home are interested in is a diploma of languages. And so this is something that unfortunately we don't have anybody on the panel, I don't believe, doing that at the moment. But a diploma of languages is a diploma that we call concurrent. So what that means is that you do it at the same time as your bachelor degree. So instead of doing 4 subjects all in arts, you'll do 3 subjects of your arts degree and then 1 additional language subject. And that means that all of your subjects will get pushed along a bit like a domino effect, and it will push out the full length of your degree to 4 years. But what it means is you'll have your 3-year bachelor degree where you could take 1 major, 2 majors, or a major and a minor, and then an additional diploma in languages. So there's lots of options there for people considering that pathway. We've got Jade here in the photo there, who did a major in history and ancient world studies, and then also a diploma in languages in Russian. And this is what it would look like in a course plan. So you can see there, it would take 4 years all up, but you would do that language, which in this case is German. You would do that throughout your entire degree, and then you'd still have space for those 2 majors the students chosen. Classics, you can see lots of Latin subjects there, and then you can also see they've done ancient world studies as well. So someone is quite interested in that area, you can see they've got their Latin subjects there. And then, of course, some breadth and electives as well. Great. So I just wanted to talk about one other key thing to think about if you are doing a Bachelor of Arts and you would like to go on and do psychology. So I just thought I'd pop this in here. And we've got a few of our panelists are doing psychology, which is great. There are those 2 pathways there, as you can see on the screen. But at an undergraduate level, the thing to keep in mind, whether it's in a Bachelor of Science or a Bachelor of Arts, as long as you do it as a major, you're eligible to apply for further study in that area. You can see there's 2 common pathways there. One would be to go on and do a 4th year in psychology. It's usually an honours year in psychology, and then go on to a master's in psychology. You can see there to be a Master of Clinical Psychology or Neuropsychology. Or after your bachelor degree, you could go on to a 1.5-year Master of Applied Psychology. You can see there's a variety of areas you could get into after that as well. So I just wanted to pop that in for anybody at home that wanted to see where a Bachelor of Arts degree could fit in to a larger plan to become a psychologist. All right, so jumping back to just the arts degree, I've just popped up here the contact hours for the Bachelor of Arts. So it's not a degree where you have a lot of time in the classroom. It's usually 2 to 4 hours, we call them contact hours, so hours in class per week per subject. And usually a student would have 3 or 4 days a week of class. So this is Kelly's timetable for this semester. Kelly, can you talk us through how you came up with this timetable, and both maybe this semester but also last semester when you were on campus? How would your day look when you had a day on campus, and what would you do in between classes?
Yeah, so what I did last semester and kind of last year as a first year, I got really excited about being able to make my own timetable, and I crammed as many classes as I could in one day, so I had more days off just to stay at home. If you look at my timetable now, it's a lot more spread out because I realized that I like being on campus. I study better, I have access to the library, and as an art student who does a lot of research, it just made more sense to have more days in uni so I can access the library and just study at library rather than be at home where I have a lot of distractions. So last year I really crammed things in. So this year in my timetable now, I only have 1 tutorial, 1 seminar a day, and that really allows me to focus on that subject each day, and I don't have to do multiple subjects a day, which I find works better for me. So that's like the big difference. I found that having 1 subject a day works for me, and it just allowed me to go to the library, focus on that subject that day, compared to first year wanting to do as many tutorials as I could in a day and then just leaving campus, because I love campus now, because when you're kind of a high school student going to uni the first time, it's really scary, it's a really big place. But once I got comfortable and knew where I liked to hang out at uni, I would go to like different cafes, different spots at campus, or just go to the library, hang out with friends. It's just great to be at uni.
Wonderful. That's an excellent segue, Kelly, into the next thing that we're going to talk about, which is what we're calling enrichment opportunities. And this sort of covers a few different things. So firstly, I'll just highlight a few of the things within the course. So one of those options would be to do an internship experience. And this would be where you have that opportunity to go into the workplace and get that on-the-job experience in your major. When you do this, if you decide to do the subjects, you'll work with our work integrated learning team. And this team is there to help you decide where you would like to do your internship, and then they will support you in applying to that organisation. And once you're accepted, they work with that organisation to make sure that your internship is meaningful and related to your degree. So it means that you're not running coffee and doing photocopying during your internship. You're actually doing something meaningful and something that you can take with you into the workforce afterwards. There are also a few discipline-specific internships, and these are for criminology, sociology, politics, and international studies. And these are sort of more pre-organised internships. For example, we have the parliamentary internship, where students are placed with a member of parliament. So there's two options there. And we've just had a question from the audience that I thought I might just jump to right now. We've heard a little bit about how some of you you came into the degree with one idea, and then you've ended up doing a different major instead. So I was just wondering, I might start with Imogen here. Did you have a clear idea of what you wanted to study when you came in?
No, so I was one of those people who was quite undecided for a long time all throughout my high school experience. I knew the areas I was interested in. For example, I knew I didn't have the brain to work out science and maths as well, so I was very much led more towards humanities and music and drama. In saying that though, I had a lot of decisions to make, as you all do, when choosing universities. I was looking at different performing arts schools. I was looking at taking diplomas as well. I was looking at lots of different options. So I guess the main thing that helped me decide was going to the Melbourne Open Day, really putting myself on campus and seeing, do I feel comfortable here? Is this an environment that I want to learn in? And then going around and talking to different subject teachers or students that have taken them and saying, what's your experience? Like, for example, psychology was really difficult to choose for me because I had to make that decision of, is it going to be too science heavy for me? That was a really big turning point. And once I spoke to a couple of students and staff members and they reassured me that it is quite humanities friendly, I think that was a big decision maker for why I chose that. And then additionally, the elective subjects that I took to choose criminology.
Great. And I might just ask you as well, Daniel, did you, because you're doing the JD now, did you always intend on doing law?
That's always the question. No, so it's a yes and no answer to that one. When I started arts, definitely at the back of my mind, I thought, what am I going to do maybe after? I knew I wanted to do a postgraduate form of study, and obviously law was always in there. But the other ones I was considering were international relations, public policy, those sort of masters. And then I guess what kind of drew me to, I guess, law in the end, or even arts to begin with, was I just loved having discussions. I really enjoyed the aspect of arts where you're in the classroom, in the tutor room, and you're just discussing these topics or scenarios with theory involved or whatever it is. I really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed kind of debating and people and finding out more information about certain areas. And then when it came to finishing my arts degree, I just thought, oh, I've got to give this a shot. Why not? I wasn't maybe 100% into the JD in terms of interest necessarily, but when I applied and then when I got it, I thought, oh, this is, how can I give this up? So I thought, why not? And it's been kind of the same ever since.
Yeah, great. And then Quinn, I might jump to you. Just did you always wanted to do psychology? Was that your plan from the beginning?
Well, actually, when I studied in Vietnam, we didn't really got in touch with any practical subjects, say psychology or economics or politics. But I did go through foundation studies at Trinity College, where I took psychology, and I just knew it was my calling. As regards philosophy, I read a lot of philosophy books, and I mean, they were interesting. So I decided to double major in psychology and philosophy.
Oh, great. So that's, and what about you, Kelly?
I didn't really decide my majors until this year. Last year, as a first year, like that's why I really wanted the wide range of majors. So last year I did subjects from like international politics to gender studies until I realized that English and creative writing are the subjects I enjoyed most. So I definitely did not go in thinking I knew what I wanted. I just wanted to try different things out until I knew this is what I enjoy.
Cool. Okay, good. Well, that sounds like we sort of covered all our bases there. So some of you had some clear ideas of what you wanted to study when you came in, but then also there was that option to sort of try out a few things and change your mind, which is something I've always found is a good thing about the degree. So I might just move on and finish off talking about internships. And so with both of these internships, as I mentioned, the Work Integrated Learning team are there to guide you through the process and help find an internship that's right for you. I will mention that the most popular place that students do an internship is actually the United Nations, one of their many organisations or sub-organisations. But our internship team, our Work Integrated Learning team, is there to help facilitate an internship, whatever you'd like to do and where you'd like to study. So it's not just places like the United Nations. You might want to work at a local non-for-profit, and that's also something that we can help for you to realise in your internship experience as well. And so we've talked about internships. The other thing that a lot of students do and is quite popular is to have a global experience for them. And that might be exchange, might be some study abroad, shorter period. It could be an overseas subject as well, or a short course. Quinn, you're planning on studying overseas, going on exchange next year, is that right? Can you tell me about why you wanted to do that and where you're going?
So definitely when I was looking into university options, I was really attracted to the fact that University of Melbourne had a lot of university partners in a lot of countries all over the world. And for me, I think it is important not just to study something that you like, but also study it in such an environment that you not just, learn practical knowledge from that subject that you're pursuing, but also, say other cultural knowledge, for example, get in touch with new, people, countries, cultures. So that was why I decided to do study abroad. And I'm currently applying to exchange to 2 universities in the Netherlands and 1 in Sweden. And I think as an art student, you've got that great flexibility in terms of what subjects you can take, as compared to, say, a biomedicine or a science student. So definitely it's a wonderful opportunity open to art students.
Yeah, definitely. And why were you drawn to those 2 countries, to the Netherlands or Sweden?
I guess I have always been interested in Europe and, just art, architecture, culture, all those things. And I was drawn to the Netherlands because they do have a lot of great philosophy courses. So I'm planning to do philosophy overseas. The thing is, you can't do psychology subjects as part of your exchange. So I'm only doing philosophy overseas, and Amsterdam and Sweden has happened to have a lot of good courses in philosophy.
Great. And have you been to anyone at Stop One or any of the course planners yet to talk about those options?
I haven't been to Stop One since COVID-19, but I have been in touch with them and they've been very helpful along the way. And also we've got this program, I think it's called My World program, that everyone who plans to do exchange or study abroad has to complete. And through that program, you would get, a broad idea of what you have to do, what are the criteria, and all of the things that you have to do in the preparation process. So definitely Stop One has been very helpful to me, and the My World program has been of huge help as well.
Wonderful. That's great. You've been able to use those facilities to help you guide through the course. So we're starting to get out of time, so I'm just going to keep on rolling on. Another key part, and I'm sure all of you will agree, to studying at the University of Melbourne is the University of Melbourne experience. There's lots of opportunities, including becoming a pass leader, which is sort of peer-led study sessions where someone in their third year will lead a study session with, say, first-year students, where they're taking a subject that that student has already taken, so they can pass on that direct student-to-student knowledge and give that student insight into that subject. So that's something that a lot of students really enjoy being involved in as a first year, and then often they'll come back as a mentor later on. And one thing I just wanted to focus in on, seeing as we have a few members and ex-members with us tonight, is the Melbourne Arts Student Society. So I might jump to Imogen to start us off. Can you tell us a little bit about what MAS is?
Of course, yes. MAS is probably one of the highlights of my university experience so far. It is the Melbourne Arts Student Society. So basically, we run lots of events for our members. Membership is very affordable for everyone, and we really encourage facilitating friendships among everyone. So we have fortnightly barbecues where everyone is welcome to come and get all of our members are welcome to come and get free sausages and veggie burgers, and it's a really great highlight of the fortnight because you get to come together at one spot and see all your friends, and it's just a great time. The other things that we do are more event-based, so we're always working on the next party or particularly educational events. So Kelly and I are actually the education coordinators on committee this year, and that means that we have had the opportunity to run so many meet and greets and Q&A sessions and seminars for you to expand your learning whilst at university.
Wonderful. I think Kelly told me the other week, even had some people from the Australian federal government wanting to do some more work with you guys, which is amazing. And I mean, I won't get Daniel to talk about it because we're almost out of time, but he is in fact an ex-president of MAS. So it's an honour to have you on board with us tonight. Great. So just moving on to what you might do after finishing a Bachelor of Arts degree. So the first thing you can do is you can just go out straight into the workforce. As I mentioned before, 91% of our graduates do go on to have employment within 4 months, which is a great figure there. But another option that you might want is some graduate study, like Daniel was talking about earlier. Can you tell us a little bit, Daniel, how was that transition to the JD?
It was a bit different. I would say that in arts, you're very much used to very flexible contact hours, and also, I guess, in terms of learning as well, it's just quite flexible in general. And you're used to, usually doing essays and that sort of thing. Whilst for the JD, kind of the biggest difference was you almost felt like you're going back to high school. So, when you go to, Melbourne Uni for undergrad, it's a big place. There's, arts has 2,000 students or something like that. In the JD cohort, you only have about 350. So it very much feels like you're in like a big high school year level, and you're all like in your own like little classes, about 60 people or so, and you're with them for the entirety of first semester basically. So you feel like very much you've got that collegiate kind of atmosphere going on that sometimes you might have in arts, but might not at other times, depending on your course or your subject or whatever it is. So the biggest transition was feeling like I felt like an adult going into arts, and then in the JD, I felt like I was going back to high school. I feel like I'd gone back to being 18 in terms of my study regimen and whatnot, just because of the different atmosphere that it provided.
Yeah, great. And I think I just thought I'd maybe go back to you on this as well. You were talking about how one of the things that really developed in your arts degree was that you realised that love of like talking and debating. Do you think that has that sort of helped you going into the JD?
Well, I guess in terms of the cohort itself, you're with 349 other people who like debating and talking. Definitely encourages you to do the same. But one of the great things is the Law Society, which is the equivalent of MAS, but for law. we run like a lot of competitions and those sort of things that kind of develop your skills in that regard. So one of the best things I've enjoyed about law school is doing witness exams, which is what you'd imagine it would be, very much like American style, questioning of witnesses, objections, that sort of thing. And you really enjoy just getting involved in that and feeling like you're an actual lawyer far before you actually do become a lawyer. But I guess there's tons of different styles of people going into the JD. You don't have to be super outspoken all the time, but definitely it's kind of a trend with the cohort in itself.
Nice, yes. And just very quickly, Daniel, I know this is one of the questions that we've got coming up that people have been asking is, so you didn't have to apply for the JD when you came out of high school. So what was the process there of applying, just quickly?
So the process was, well, for me at least, back then, was basically in the last year or so of your degree, you end up doing the LSAT, which is like the law test. If you've watched Legally Blonde, you know what it is. And then all you really have to do is, once you've done the LSAT, you can do it a couple of times. There's a certain requirement of how many times you can do it. But once you've done that and got your score, you can then apply for the Juris Doctor at the Melbourne Law School. And what they take into account, well, when I applied at least, was the LSAT and then also your grades from your undergraduate. At the moment, they're not taking the LSAT just because of this current situation. But for me, it was the LSAT and my grades, and then literally just apply online. And it was actually relatively simple in that regard.
No, great, good. Yes, so yeah, I believe that will be the process once we're able to sit the LSAT again. But yeah, it is a slightly different process than going straight out of high school. And I know we've got quite a few psychology questions as well, so I might just ask all of you psychology majors. Is that your plan to go on to psychology, all of this? I might ask that with Quinn.
Yeah, my plan, I mean, after taking psychology at Trinity College, I was pretty sure that this is what I want to commit to. And yeah, so far I don't think I have made a mistake in choosing psychology, and let's hope that stays the case.
Great. What about you, Imogen? Are you torn between criminology and psychology, or you're not?
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely torn at the moment. I feel my plan coming in was to do psychology and then do that usual route of doing a master's afterwards and then continuing on to clinical psychology. So you obviously need to have your APAC accredited courses, which means you need to complete close to 6 years of education in order to be a clinical psychologist. At the moment, I'm also looking at the option of moving after my undergraduate into speech pathology, because that is something where psychology major is a prerequisite. So that opens up another door for me. So I'm really still exploring my options.
Cool, great. So it sounds like there's lots of different options there still available after the Bachelor of Arts degree. We are almost out of time, so I just quickly wanted to go over the entry requirements. Everyone at home can jump on the website. It's study.unimelb.edu.au and just navigate your way to the Bachelor of Arts page, and you'll be able to work out the entry requirements for whatever high school you're currently doing at the moment, whether that's Australian high school or international or whichever. Key to note that for all of those, you will just need to make sure you're taking English, and if you're doing economics, thinking about economics major, we strongly recommend that you do maths methods or equivalent. You can also check out our brochures online and just follow that URL or type it in on the website to find out a bit more information about all of our offerings. And as we've already mentioned, jump onto study.unimelb.edu.au and if you can't find any information there, you can send an inquiry and we'll be able to answer your question as well. So a big thank you to all of our panelists tonight. Thank you for taking the time and sharing your stories. Really appreciate it. And I wish you the best of luck with whatever you go on to next, whether it's psychology, law, or something else completely different. So thank you so much, everybody, and have a wonderful evening.